大谷副社長、後のご予定が詰まっているとは思いますけど、もう一方だけご質問よろしいでしょうか。じゃあ、飯島委員お願いいたします。
はい、概要点さん、ありがとうございます。三菱物産の飯島です。日頃 E&P 事業や LNG プロジェクト等々でですね、大変お世話になっています。この場を借りて御礼を申し上げたいと思います。3つ質問させてください。将来の、予測という予測ではなくてシナリオを書いていくときにですね、大変複雑であり、かつ複合的であると。なおかつですね、変化のスピードが激しいと。そういった意味でお話を受けたまっていると、既存の、E&P 上流事業からエネルギーを含めた中流、またケミカルを含めた下流といったような事業を進化を追求すると同時にですね、新エネルギー、水素を含めた新エネルギーもやっていきます。なおかつ技術革新も追っかけますといったような中ではですね、よく選択と集中という話があるんですけれども、経営戦略としては相場リレー今後やっていくと。そういった時にですね、限られた経営資源、人材、物、お金等々を考えたときにですね、シェルの、経営戦略として、そういった限られた、経営資源をどのようにアロケーションしていくのかと、一部、新エネルギーに対する投資についての金額等々についての考え方はお聞きしたんですけれども、全体、長期的な戦略の中でですね、こうした人材もかなりいるんではないかと、特に人材が懸念されるんですけれども、その辺の戦略をどう考えておられるかというお話をお聞きしたいのと、あと、かなり、細かい話になって恐縮なんですけれども、カーボンプライシングのお話、導入の目的等々、狙いはお聞きしたんですけれども、私どもは、シェルさん、エクソンモービル等々がですね、シャドウカーボンプライスを、導入していると。いわゆる社内で、仮のカーボンプライスを導入していると。したがって短期的に考えたときに、現状、シェルの会社として、このカーボンプライスの導入、いわゆるインターナルカーボンプライスがどのような効果を発揮しているのかを、短期的な視点で教えていただきたい。それで中長期には、このカーボンプライスを、インターナルシャドウカーボンプライスを値上げしていくのかどうなのか、そういった戦略も少しお聞かせいただければと。あともう一つはですね、石炭、ガスの開発について、最近世界銀行がですね、石炭ガスの開発、石炭っていう動きは少し従来から出てたんですけれども、ガスまでもですね、ファイナンスを抑制したいといったような動きがありますけれども、これについては、シェルとしてはどのように対応していこうとしているのかをお聞かせいただきたいと思います。よろしくお願いいたします。
Okay, thank you. So indeed, we very much value working with Mitsubishi. It's been a long partnership with the Shell companies and an excellent partnership, and I think a successful one for us both. Let me start then. The first one is the range of activities and how do we cope with and think about that. So indeed, the challenge is a large one. The energy business and all those sectors you outlined are very significant. Shell's one of our advantages we actually think as about this future is that because we are a large, experienced player who is involved from the supply through to the marketing of energy and energy products and the products of energy such as chemicals, we think that enables us to understand and potentially benefit from the uncertainties that will evolve as energy changes and sees profits and value change possibly over time as to where energy profits will be made in the along the energy value chain. So that's the first starting point. And secondly, we are a very large company, 87,000 direct employee and many hundreds of thousands when we include our contractors and people working on our retail sites. And so we have a large and a very strong technical base. We spend more than $1 billion a year on research and development and have done so for many, many years. So we have a long legacy of benefits that we can draw on. Now, when it comes to allocation, though, of dollars, the Shell Group spends, again, a very large amount of money on new capital each year, something between $25 billion to $30 billion a year we have said we will spend over recent years. And in fact, a few years ago, we were spending much more than that also. Now, within what we have said is that our focus to our new business, new energies, being power and fuels, that will, for the next 3 or 4 years, be limited or increased, but still limited to $1 to $2 billion a year. So in Shell terms, that's a reasonable, moderate level of expenditure. For many of other players in the industry, that's of course a very large amount of money. But we're able to manage that level of investment, we think, sensibly. Also, importantly, when it comes to how we're doing so, we very much recognise what we don't know and don't understand. And so we are taking a very disciplined approach to both the pace of growth, and so we would expect and hope that we have determined sufficient profitable opportunities in the 2020s to very materially increase our expenditure in new energies. But we're not committing to do so until we have found and determined those opportunities. And also that we know that we also need to acquire skills and capability and people's knowledge. And so we are also complementing Shell's own staff and capabilities with those of new companies that we seek to buy. And we seek to leverage and use and learn from the people and their knowledge and skills of these new industries. If I move to carbon pricing then, and really the impact of internal shadow pricing. Indeed, Shell has used an implicit price of carbon on all of our major investments for some years. We use as a rule of thumb $40 per tonne of carbon price. And that helps us understand, firstly, the profitability and resilience of our investments to what we believe directionally will be at least some part of a carbon price. Whether it ends up as 40 or 30 or 70, we don't know, but we think 40 is a good point to start to put some thinking and discipline into our preparations for providing investments which are responsible, able to cope with what we think will be the necessary levels of carbon readiness going forward. And so that means indeed some projects which are particularly highly carbon inefficient will be less attractive to Shell. And so we will definitely see Shell continue to choose projects which are advantaged from a carbon point of view. And that will only increase in terms of our thinking and our ranking of our projects going forward. And then finally, question of the World Bank's statements around also limiting funding for gas. It's my understanding that fundamentally the World Bank has not been a big provider for gas projects because, frankly, they've not needed to be. Gas projects have typically been able to attract the investment dollars from private investors and customers to enable their development. So I think clearly the World Bank's focus is being rightly on concerns about limiting further coal developments and trying to therefore adjust their funding accordingly. But on gas, I don't see that typically the World Bank is involved with any of the gas projects we've been involved with that I can recall, and wouldn't expect them to be in future gas projects that Shell is involved with. So I don't see that being a major impact for the gas development.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you.
ありがとうございました。まだまだご質問、あろうかと思いますけれども、時間も押しておりますし、大手副社長の後のご予定がありますので、ここでプレゼンテーションと質問を終 終わりにさせていただきます。船橋委員、大変恐縮でございます。中西委員、昨年、ご質問あろうかと思いますけれども、後でですね、大手副社長には我々の方から、皆さんのご質問も含めて、メール等で、大手副社長に直接ですね、お伺いするようにしたいと思いますので、また、副社長よろしくお願いいたします。それでは、ここで大手副社長のプレゼンテーションを。
Thank you very much for your time, and I've enjoyed today, and maybe at a future opportunity have an opportunity to come and see you in Tokyo.
ありがとうございました。それでは続きまして、お待たせいたしました。本日来ていただいています EDF 社、NG 社の両副社長から、プレゼンテーションをしていただき、その後に、二つのプレゼンテーションをした後に、ご質問の時間を作りたいというように思います。まず最初に、EDF 社のマリアンヌ・レイヌ副社長からお願いいたします。プレゼンテーションの目安ですが、大体おおむね20分程度、それぞれ20分程度を一つの目安としてお願いしたく思います。それでは、よろしくお願いします。
皆様、こんにちは。私は、フランス電力グループ、上級副社長のマリアン・レニョと申します。That will be all for my Japanese language, I'm afraid. Thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted in the name of EDF Group to share with you some thoughts about the energy transition, the French energy mix, and the role that EDF Group wants to play in that respect. First of all, some key figures regarding EDF, a worldwide leader of the energy transition. Some figures has been already mentioned, so I will be brief on that. EDF, it means almost 40 million customers around the world, around 170,000 employees, 2/3 of it in Europe, 1/3 outside Europe, so an international group. If we come to generation, because I think it's your main issue today, we are generating worldwide around 600 terawatt-hours, roughly 80 of it nuclear, 10% of hydro and other renewable energy. Sometimes it is not well known, but we are, of course, the largest nuclear operator in the world, but also the first hydropower producer in Europe. CCGT as well, and some thermal. As you may know, Framatome recently joined EDF Group in the framework of the reorganization of the French nuclear team. Let's talk a bit about the French energy mix, because these figures were worldwide for the group as a whole. And if we are focusing on France, as you may know, the priority and strategy from the French government and from EDF as well is to go on with a mix that will allow France to respect the Paris Agreement and to fight against the climate change. You can share with us the main figures regarding the prices. The prices of electricity are quite low in France compared to the average in Europe. You have the figures on the slides, and the CO2 emissions are on the same trend because EDF is emitting, let's say, 20 times less than its main competitors regarding CO2 emission globally, and especially in Europe. You have the detailed figures on the side. So I would say and share with you that if we talk only about France, 98% of the electricity that EDF generates in France includes no CO2 emission because it's mainly based on nuclear and on hydro and of course on renewable as well. I will come back to that later. I will not be long on that. As I mentioned, EDF is a worldwide company and what is most important, is present on all the value chain of electricity, starting from generation up to transmission, distribution, sales, of course, but also trading and services. And from our point of view, it's very important to be an integrated player and to have a global view of the global economy of our sector. So we are present in almost 25 countries, and for example, regarding renewable, we are present in 22 countries. Regarding France, what is key is to understand that thanks to the specific energy mix, we can achieve a very low prices for electricity for our customers. And we are playing, EDF is playing a major role in a sector which is open, which is liberalized regarding generation, regarding sales, and a sector which has been through unbuilding of transportation, unbuilding of distribution networks. So now the French power market is open, and we are present on, as I just said, on all the dimensions of this French power market: generation, transmission, distribution, supply, and power exchange. On the left side of the slides, what is the key message? The key message is that the prices of electricity, they can have various tendencies year after year. What is key to fix the price of electricity is, of course, the capacity of the fleet, but also mainly the fuel prices and the CO2 price. That's why we are a strong advocate of CO2 price, CO2 carbon floor, in order to have, let's say, the truth on the sustainability of future investment. The prices were very high, where everybody was believing in the nuclear renaissance all over the world around, let's say, between the beginning of this century. So what type of energy mix the French government is considering? First of all, the role of the different players need to be separate. We have, of course, a government. They are working on scenarios. They are issuing bills and passing laws as well. So the definition of the French future electricity mix, and it is under debate at this moment, it's the pure responsibility of politics of the government. We, as industrial players, industrial company, we can contribute to the energy mix implementation, and of course we will assume and respect our public services missions regarding our customers and regarding the French public. So some words about this energy policy towards the energy transition. Let's say that two years ago, in 2015, a law regarding energy transition has been adopted, and it established that nuclear capacity in France should be capped at its present level, meaning 63 gigawatts, and that the consequences of that, it's when Flamanville, I'm sure you know about the EPR under construction, will enter under operation, we will have to close and to shut down one of our nuclear plants in order to respect this threshold of nuclear generation. And at that time, the French government said and underlined that They wanted to reduce the share of nuclear in generation, moving from 75% roughly up to 50% around 2025. That was two years ago. More recently, in October last year, new priorities were established by the new government, and they really put the stress and their key priority on fighting the climate change, reducing carbon emissions, maintaining the specificity of this French energy mix in order to respect the Paris Agreement commitments and the climate goals commitments. You have maybe in mind that France commit itself to divide by 4 its emission by 2050. So that leads to some main consequences. There will be no more opening of new thermal fossil plant capacity, including, of course, coal and gas in this French mix. And the 15% nuclear share goal is postponed. And the question which is debated now in France is until now, and it is the issue of the programmation of electricity and energy mix that is currently under debate in France. So this target of 50% will be postponed until new balance of the electricity mix is reached through significant increasing part of renewables. So the question is, at what speed the renewable will be developed and implemented in the French energy mix. There are some criteria to be taken into consideration: security of supply, economic competitiveness to define this mix, and of course financial sustainability. So it's not so far from what Japan called the 3E, and that means environment, efficiency, and economics. We also have this in mind. EDF, of course, wants to be a major player in the energy transition because we have a specific DNA, as I mentioned, high level of competencies, of skills, and on all the value chain of electricity. Of course, we invest a lot in technology excellence. EDF is a high level of technological industry and company, and of course a huge innovation push, because as our Shell colleague just expressed, the future of the energy is also about innovation, digitalization, and decentralization. Mainly, I would say, a combination of a mix of centralized capacities and decentralized capacities. So my main message regarding EDF strategy will be that we are counting on 3 major dimensions. And I will start by number 2 and number 3 because I'm thinking that you are interested mainly in the first issue. We have a large base of customers, and we are providing services and supply to local communities. We need to develop that worldwide and to invest and experience new energy services for customers, because all the utilities are providing, let's say, the same electron, the same product. It's not like in telecom. So to add value, you need to add services to your product. And there's a large portfolio of services that can be provided. We also need to prepare the future of this electrical system, meaning investing and developing new energy systems. And talking about that, I'm talking about smart meters, smart grids, vehicle to grid, electrical vehicle, but also mainly capacity storage, because storage is a game changer in the energy sector. Regarding generation, so the first strategic objective EDF has, we are counting on a combination of nuclear power and renewable energies. What is your view is that nuclear is not the solution, it's part of the solution. There's no one sole solution, but what is our key driver is to have a low carbon generation mixed and to respect the climate change objectives. So regarding that mixed, of course, these two pillars, renewables on one hand and nuclear on the other hand, they are sustained by a huge effort in research and development, and EDF is one of the sole European utilities which kept an integrated research and development effort. We have almost 2,000 people working for our research and development team, and you can see on the chart that 50% of our budget is dedicated to this low carbon energy mixed, renewable and nuclear. Of course, in that respect, we have long-term and strong and historical partnership with Japanese companies and entities. Talking a bit about what is happening outside France, you may know that in the world, EDF is deploying the construction of 5 new nuclear reactors. You have the location. As you may know, one reactor is under construction in France, it's Flamanville. 2 of them are under construction in UK. It's called the Hinkley Point C project. And we have also 2 reactors under construction in China with a minority share in that respect. Talking about nuclear, it's also talking about the entire life cycle of a nuclear generation facility, design, operation, decommissioning, and taking care of waste. Of course, it's absolutely key. So a word about lifetime expansion, because lifetime extension is part of the solution. It's not only, of course, building new nuclear capacity, but what is more economic is to extend the lifetime of existing capacities. And we are investing 45 billion euros in order to extend the lifetime of our nuclear fleet. And you have on the slides the main dimensions we are working on and what is the money dedicated to. We are very confident that we will be able to extend the French nuclear fleet up to 50 years at least. Maybe you know that in the US they are considering extension up to 60 years, but the models are quite different. We have already included in our count the extension up to 50 years of our 900 megawatt series. Of course, we are counting on international cooperation with Japanese and worldwide entities in order to share best practices amongst nuclear operators in order to sustain this program. Some words about the second pillar of this energy mix we are promoting. Renewables. Renewables means hydro, as I already mentioned. It means also wind and solar, and we have already almost 30 gigawatt installed capacity all around the world. Hydro, wind and solar, but also we are working on storage solution, as I mentioned, all over the world. Recently, we announced, in order to speed up the path, because in the French energy mix, as I shared with you, the renewables will take a large part, but France is not precisely on track in order to be at the beating point by 2030. That's why EDF announced a huge 30 gigawatt solar plan from 2020 up to 2035. That means I'd be able to add each year 2 new gigawatt PV energy capacity each year to our actual fleet. So it is very ambitious. It's going to be possible because you may know that the prices of wind and PV technology are constantly declining. It's declining, of course, in France, but it's declining in Europe and outside Europe. And it's a key driver to be confident in the development of renewable capacity. So our vision, as I've said, it's a combination of multiple solutions, on one hand centralized and on the other hand decentralized. They should not be opposed. They are part of the same solution, because when we are talking about renewable, we are of course talking about flexibility, agility, reduction of cost, but also intermittency. There's not always sun and wind, so we need to have a baseload generation in order to match our citizen needs. As a conclusion, I think I am on track for my period of speech. We want to take a real active part in this European and worldwide energy transition. It's not only a French issue, it's a European, it's an international issue. The main factors are the strong decreasing in cost of renewables, so that they will be able to take a wider part in this energy mix, based on innovation, on new solutions. But also we need to assure the electric grid stability, resilience, and safety. That's why we want to improve our nuclear fleet flexible capacity. We want to develop new solutions regarding smart grids, invest and innovate in new storage solutions, and of course to be economics, to keep predictable, to be competitive. Competitiveness of new means of generation is key. It will be a key driver for new nuclear as well. So the first solution is to extend the current nuclear fleet lifespan, and to prepare to be ready after this period to invest in new nuclear capacity to take over from the existing fleet. So my main message, as you understood, is if we want to fight the climate change issue, if we want to respect the Paris Agreement commitments, we have to stick to an energy mix made of nuclear and renewables, and to prepare the future of a very low carbon and a competitive power. And of course, EDF Group want to take an active part in that. Thank you for your attention.
ありがとうございました。それでは引き続きまして、エンジン社のリディ・オロフ副社長からプレゼンテーションをお願いいたします。
Thank you very much. I'm very happy that I'm speaking after my two colleagues from Shell and EDF, because you will find a lot of common points in our presentation. And perhaps to start with the way we see the energy transition as a combination of decentralization, decarbonation, and digitalization. If I may start with a short reminder of what ENGIE is. ENGIE, which resulted of the merger of Suez and the former Gaz de France, is a worldwide energy company. We are present in 70 countries. We have 130 53,000 employees, of which 2/3 are working in the services, and we are present on all continents, although our presence in Africa is relatively small for the time being. In terms of organization, we moved 2 years ago from a centralized organization by type of activity to a more decentralized organization with 24 business units. You will see that a number of them are in Europe because that's where our traditional business was. And when I say 24 business units, I should say, in fact, very soon only 22, since we are selling exploration and production, which is the upstream oil and gas business, and global LNG, which is the merchant part of the liquefied natural gas business. At the same time, we are creating a new hydrogen BU, but we will come back to that. So, definition of the energy transition or the energy revolution, I will not come back to that. We share the same vision as Shell, EDF, and many others, that these three factors of decarbonization, decentralization, and digitalization will completely revolutionize the world of energy. So now about energy strategy in this energy transition. First, we have decided that we do not want to be one of the players who are waiting for the energy transition to happen and see what's happening, but we want to be one of the few who will be leading this movement and to a certain extent driving it. In order to manage our position as a leader of the energy transition, we set up 3 objectives for the 3 years 16, 17, 18. These 3 objectives were first to reduce our exposure to commodity price risk. The reason is that we consider that if we are too much exposed to commodity price risk, then we cannot be master of our own destiny, because it's the price of oil or the price of gas which will decide if we can invest or not. And that it's not acceptable if we want to decide on our destiny and steer where we want to go. That's the reason why we have sold exploration and production. We want to develop customer solutions. We think that the power in the future is no longer in the hands of the one who are generating power, but the power will be in the hands of the customers and the companies who are satisfying their needs as closely as possible to their problems, to their plant, to their site, will be the one winning. And third, we want to focus on low CO2 activities, and for us, low CO2 does include gas, natural gas activities. And then we decided that in order to lead this transformation, we will be acting in 4 different ways, and we will discuss that a bit later, so I don't expend here too much time on that. So let's look at our transformation plan. Transformation plan, first, we decided that we wanted to reshape our portfolio. We had the great advantage that when we started, already 80% of our portfolio of assets were in line with the strategy we wanted to develop. But still, we had 20% that we wanted to get rid of. So we decided that in 3 years, we will divest something like 15 billion euros of assets, and we will reinvest 22 billion euros. I'm happy to say that today, where we just start the 3rd year of this plan, we have already divested most of what we wanted to divest, and we have already reinvested also most of what we wanted to do. And we are reinvesting in low CO2 power generation, customer solution, and global energy infrastructure. Well, no image anymore. Wow. Okay, that's fine again. Thank you. So perhaps just to give you an idea of where we are in terms of low CO2 power generation, and to give you an idea of how we have been reallocating our assets. Here you see that the high CO2 part of our generation mix is composed of coal and other non-renewables, which are mostly oil, which is 14%. The year before it was 16%. End of 17, because these figures are end of 2016, end of 17 we have less than 10%. And we still have a few coal-fired power plants to divest so as to bring it to zero as soon as possible. And you see that if we accept that half of our portfolio more or less is natural gas-fired power plants, but we have a significant hydro component, and we have a growing part of solar, biomass, wind, a bit of geothermal, and so on. And nuclear have a stable part of around 6%. Let's say a few words about nuclear. Obviously, we are a small player compared to EDF, with an exception, which is Belgium. In Belgium, we are the nuclear operator. We operate the 7 reactors in Belgium. And as EDF does in France, we are working on life extension. Also, life extension in Belgium would require a change in law, because the law says today that all reactors have to stop by 2025. We don't think it's very realistic, but we will see. It's for the Belgian parliament to decide. We have considered recently that investing in new nuclear power plants were more and more difficult for a private company, so that in fact we have no project today in our portfolio to invest in new nuclear power plants. But we still believe in the development of nuclear, and we are one of the strongest group in terms of services to the nuclear industry. Through our engineering company, through our installation, piping, electrical, HVAC companies, which are named here, Endel, Tractable, NG Axima, NG Ineo. We are a very strong player in the nuclear industry, but not as an investor, but as a services company. We particularly play an important role in projects like ITER in France. And in that respect, we have developed quite strong partnerships with Mitsubishi Heavy Industry and Rosatom. So we strongly believe that nuclear is part of the energy transition, which just doesn't mean that for us it means investing. For us it means mostly providing services. Another very important feature for us of the energy transition is optimizing of local energy needs through heating and cooling district system. And here I just put a few information about two of our most important recent projects. One is the development of the Ohio State University energy system, where we signed a contract for 50 years with this university, whereby we will take full control of all their energy systems. We will provide them at least 25% energy efficiency, and we will renovate all the systems over the time and keep it working for 50 years. And it's a $1.2 billion contract. Another example is that we recently took a very important stake, 40%, in Tabrid, which is a leading company in cooling system in the Gulf countries. And with the acquisition of Tabrid, ENGIE has become the leader in the world in cooling system. And we think that it's a very relevant solution in many parts of the world, because everybody has to be aware that individual air conditioning systems are particularly inefficient, and that cooling systems are a very efficient way to provide the necessity of cooling in many cities in the world. Another part of our plan is clearly improving our internal performance, and here, like any other company, we have savings initiative where we intend to deliver 1.2 billion savings over 3 years. We are on track to do that. It's relatively usual business for a large company, so I will not spend too much time on that. Another pillar of our transformation plan is obviously what we call preparing for the future. That's innovation, development of new projects, new offers, new solutions for our customers. And here, this slide is a bit complex with a lot of things mentioned on it. The reason is that we have adopted a multi-channel innovation strategy, where we intend that new products, innovation, new offers for our customers will come through what we call the key programs, which are sharing innovation across the company. Will come from NG Fab, which is a dedicated organization to disruptive innovation like hydrogen, like microgrids development and so on. Will come from digital innovation, will come from incubation of new ideas coming from the employees of the company, will come from NG New Ventures, that's corporate venture capital in startups and so on. And finally, will come from acquisition of tech companies. One of the most valuable ones we have recently acquired is called Cyrradel. It's a company which is specialized in 3D simulation of any city. Initially, they made 3D simulation to calculate the propagation of telecom waves in the cities and be sure that antennas and mobile phones were connected everywhere. But they realized that if you are able to calculate the development of electromagnetic waves in the city, you are able to calculate anything in the city. Circulation of pollution, noise, energy, and wind, and whatever you want. And therefore, we now are able to offer to cities very powerful simulation tools for any policies they want to implement. We are perfectly conscious that as a large group, if we don't innovate and if we cannot bring our innovation quickly enough to the market, then nothing can justify the heavy cost of being a large company like ours. Adapting the group, it's mostly reducing our cost on one side, but also being more agile, reacting more quickly, making decisions quicker. And in order to do that, for instance, we have currently a plan at the head office to reduce the head office by a factor of 1/3, because we realized that we were probably too heavy in the head office and not making our decision quickly enough. Now I wanted to make a special focus on the gas business. Just to start with figures from the International Energy Agency, just to remind you that gas is the fastest growing, will be fast growing in the world in all scenarios, but this growth will come from non-OECD countries. And we have to be conscious of that. For us, why is gas so important? Because we consider gas as an essential part of the energy transition. There is no other solution. If we want to replace the 1,900 gigawatts of coal-fired power plants in the world, than to replace most of them by gas. If we do so, we reduce the global CO2 emission in the world by 15%. If we don't do so, there is no chance that we will meet the 2 degrees target for global warming. Therefore, we think that gas is there an important part of the energy transition, and not only it complements renewable energy and it can eliminate coal rapidly, but it also improves the issue of air pollution in the cities. And we have seen that happening recently in China, where reduction of coal-fired plants have had a dramatic improvement effect on the air quality in cities. But we are perfectly aware that natural gas is CO2 emitting at the end of the day, even if far less than coal, and therefore we think that part of the future is in biogas. Biogas, or what we call biomethane, which is a biogas once you have purified it to inject it into the network. We have great plans for France where we want biogas to represent 30% of the natural gas consumed in France in 2030 and 100% in the 50s. That's very ambitious, but we strongly believe that that has to happen in order to allow natural gas to be not only the fuel for the energy transition, but the fuel for after the energy transition. Gas has to become greener and greener. We have also conviction about hydrogen, and that's the reason why we are a member of the Hydrogen Council. We believe that hydrogen can address three important markets: mobility, with transport. I'm myself driving a hydrogen car every day. Energy for storage, long-term storage, and for long-distance transportation. As Guy mentioned, you can dream of producing in a desert country with a lot of sun and export your energy in the form of hydrogen to cities and countries who are in need of it, like Japan, Korea, or Europe. And finally, industry. Industry is a large consumer of hydrogen, and tomorrow, if we can provide renewable hydrogen, then it will help clean the world. We have a few concrete projects. One of them is a power-to-gas project called Jupiter 1000 in the south of France, where with wind farms we intend to produce hydrogen first and methane second, inject it into the network. But we have a number of smaller projects here and there, and we keep in our mind the idea that tomorrow we could be producing large-scale hydrogen in countries like Western Australia or elsewhere with solar farms, dedicated solar farms, and export the hydrogen. So, in order to conclude, what are NG's priorities for energy transition, and particularly for gas? First, we think the priority for all energy companies in the world should be replacing coal with gas in the 1,900 gigawatts of coal-fired power plants in the world. If we don't do that, anything else will not be sufficient to bring climate change back on track. Second, we think that gas will provide a very useful complement, flexible component in the energy system to complement the intermittent energies which are wind and solar. Obviously, in countries where you have flexible nuclear, that may be sufficient, but there are very few of these countries, so anywhere else gas is an ideal complement to renewables. We want to focus particularly on gas infrastructure because we think that it's a stable business in which we have a long experience and we want to develop. And last and final, but perhaps the most important, we want to make the gas green through biogas. Biogas, first generation, that's digestion of agricultural waste. Second generation by pyrolysis of wood, and also by power to gas. And we think that a target of gas fully renewable in Europe in 2050 is achievable. Thank you for your attention.
レニュ副社長、オロ副社長、ありがとうございました。それでは、これから自由討議に入ります。両副社長に対するご質問でも結構でございますし、委員の皆様のご意見でも結構でございます。それでは、最初の早めに退席される予定の船橋委員お願いいたします。
レイナさん、オロさん、ありがとうございました。お二人にそれぞれ、伺いたいんですけれども、というか同じ質問を伺いたいんですけれども、福島の原発事故の教訓をですね、それぞれ原子力事業者として、どのようにまずこれを受け止めて、それで、その現在のビジネスの中でどのようにその教訓、というのを生かして、実施していらっしゃるのか、まずその点が第一点ですね。もう一つは、先ほど、レイニョさんがおっしゃっていた、マクロン政権が登場してから、原子力の、電源構成の中での見直しをめぐって、それまでのオーランド政権とは違う、考え方、これを追求しようとしていると。全体としてのエネルギーは、これは比重を下げるにしても、原子力そのものの、この、特に、低炭素という観点からの再見直しと、そういうふうに受け止めましたけれども、最も白熱している議論、議論が白熱しているということですけど、どこが一番ポイントなのかですね、今の論争の。そこもちょっと教えていただけたらと思います。それとの関連で、ドイツはメルケル政権、連立政権で、これはもう明確に脱原発で、今もその路線だと思いますけれども、いろいろ伺うと、ドイツの中でもいろんな議論が出ているというふうに伺いますし、特にCO2 排出量であるとか、コストとか、ドイツが脱原発路線に大きく舵を切ってからのドイツとフランスの、それぞれの、コスト、それから CO2 の排出量という観点からどういうようにドイツの政策を見ていらっしゃるのかということを伺えればと